everybody. So we are so excited today to be here to finally be talking about the New Year's Eve special to end off season 11 of Doctor Who, and it is called Resolution. I'm Rachel, and Jonathan is here.
Hey.
Yeah, so sorry we're a little late on getting this. It's just been crazy for us this last couple of weeks. So this is our final episode of Doctor Who until 2020. Can you believe it?
No, I can't believe it's going to be that long.
I know,
That's terrible.
pretty depressing. But yeah, and they did a New Year's special instead of our Christmas special. How do you feel about that?
It was fine, I guess. I guess I would have liked the Christmas special, but that's mainly out of tradition. So I guess it's fine that they decided to mix it up a little this year.
Yeah, they claimed that they said, "Oh, well, we've done everything that you could do for Christmas," but that's obviously not the case. I mean,
No, they could always think of new things. They just need to think harder about it.
yeah, yeah. I was really surprised when I was looking online that all the reviews for this episode were very strong. Like I read, it was Entertainment Weekly, I think it was, that said it was the strongest episode of the whole season,
Wow.
which I definitely don't agree with. Like I thought this was serviceable, but she's saying here on Entertainment Weekly, she's saying that it's a blast from start to finish, a zippy adventure that sparkles like a New Year's firework. Like, really?
I don't think I agree.
Yeah, I don't think I agree either. Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. She says, after a mid-lead season that was marked by high highs and some forgettable lows, Resolution was a chance for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor to go out with a bang, especially since the show won't return until 2020. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was really interesting that they were so positive and everybody seemed to love it. But I don't know. How did you feel about it?
I thought it was fine, but it wasn't what I was expecting or hoping for.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt more like a season finale than the last episode, but
Uh-huh.
I don't think I liked it any better than the last episode.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like it was really, maybe I was just in a bad mood, but I don't know. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
Even it was fine. But I don't know. It was just interesting. I felt like compared to Rosa or even the witch finders, witch binders, which witch hunters. I can't remember that one. That one was really good. I really like that one, and the Punjab one. That one was really good. I don't know how you compare the Demons of Punjab. I don't know how you compare this to that.
Those are more towards the top of my list, and this would be
Yeah.
more toward the bottom.
Yeah, I agree. All right. This starts, there's this sort of lore of these old ancient warriors who fight off this opponent, and then they divide it into three pieces, and each one takes a part of the piece, and they agree to guard it with their life. And one goes to Siberia, one goes to the desert, and then the other stays there in England because they end up getting killed, and so it doesn't end up where it's supposed to go. So there's these archaeologists at the beginning that find this ancient relic, I guess you might call it, ancient body, and they put it under this heat lamp, radioactive lamp, and then you get a little. There was almost no New Year's really in this movie, in this episode. Would you agree?
Yeah, they kept mentioning that it was New Year's Day, but that's about all that it had to do with New Year's.
Yeah, like the two people, I guess they kissed at New Year's, these two archaeologists, and they're like, "Oh, are we dating? What did it mean? Or was it just some New Year's kiss?" But that's about it, that it was any New Year's.
Yeah, this episode could have taken place literally at any other time. They just have to take out like 4 lines that they inserted throughout the episode to make sure you knew that this happened on New Year's.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And it turns out that this creature that they're guarding is able to come alive. And at first, they don't know what it could possibly be. Yeah, there was a little bit at the very beginning also with the doctor that I guess they were going throughout time and celebrating New Year's at all these different places, famous places
Hmm.
and events. So there was that at the very beginning.
Yeah, but
Uh,
that's another thing that they literally could have done that at any time during the year. It's a
yeah,
time machine. It was
right.
just another thing that they were putting in here to make sure you knew this is a New Year's special.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So they go to Graham's house, and there was kind of a funny gag that she kept calling the doorbell an intruder alert. Every time the doorbell rings, oh, it's your intruder alert. I thought that was kind of funny. They're waiting there, and they're at the house, and Ryan's dad shows up, and so this is pretty tense. What did you think of Ryan's dad?
Um, he was fine, but I feel like they should have stretched this part out over more than one episode.
Uh huh.
Like, he's back, and by the end, he's like totally welcomed. I feel like they needed to have a bit more conflict, and this should have been an arc instead of something jammed into the New Year's special.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it was kind of a lot of pain and issues and different things like that, especially because it affected two characters, not just one character,
Mm-hmm.
because it affected Graham as well. And so it turns out this creature is a parasite. And did you know immediately that it was a Dalek?
Yes, because I'd seen promo.
Oh, okay.
Like they had hyped it up that like one of the Doctor's oldest enemies were coming back or something like that. I was like, well, it's obviously a Dalek.
Um,
They'd spent the whole season not having any old enemies come, so I figured that they were going to be bringing somebody that everyone would know. So I knew it was going to be a Dalek, and as like the first time you see it, it's got tentacles. So what other thing is it going to be unless they make something that looks exactly like a Dalek and say it's not a Dalek? It
uh-huh.
is a Dalek.
Do they spend a lot of other episodes with the Dalek outside of the robe side of the I don't know what they call that
It's kind of
robot.
like a tank. It's
Yeah.
people think of it as a robot, but it's basically a tank for the squid-like alien to live in.
Hmm.
The Daleks don't spend a ton of time outside of them. Like the majority of their time is inside their tanks, but they have been out enough that to me they're instantly recognizable. They look like a little squid with one eye. So in Doctor Who, that's to me that's immediately a Dalek.
Yeah, I mean I'm not as familiar with the whole series as you are, but even I pretty much immediately knew that it was the Dalek. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay. Yeah, so it attaches itself to this woman, this archaeologist, and she becomes kind of robotic and kind of evil, like the Dalek does. The Dalek says, "I am your pilot now."
This is something too that I don't think the Dalek has ever done in the show. I don't think any Dalek has ever basically possessed someone before, which
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not against, and I thought they did it fine.
Uh huh.
I just I guess my biggest thing is that I wish the whole episode had been more, I don't know, not or maybe I wish it would have been less underwhelming to
Yeah.
like show off this brand new Dalek power that we never knew they had before. Or at least this specific kind of Dalek, because I guess they're talking about it being a reconnaissance Dalek or something. Either way, it's not something we've ever seen happen before.
Yeah, which I mean, if the whole point is to, finally give people something that they know, where this season there hadn't been any classic creatures, then classic monsters, then sort of strange to then make it this different kind. Like
Hmm.
if you're gonna go old school, go old school.
Yeah, when they were talking about like an old enemy coming back, I was expecting like a horde of Daleks, and that's I think I would have been happier with this episode if that had happened. Instead, it was this one lone straggling Dalek with a weird backstory that almost doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And
Yeah, I mean, can you are typically our Daleks, can you divide them in three like that?
That's the main thing that I didn't really understand. Like, w what are the other parts? Are they more tentacles? Does the Dalek reproduce itself when like a starfish? Like you cut it apart and then the two halves grow into two more Daleks?
Hmm.
Like, what were the other two parts? Is the other two parts like the tank? It didn't explain, and then it showed like in another scene that looked like they were the other two parts were coming back to life, but then it was like never seen again,
Yeah,
unless I was like really tired and totally missed something. But I don't remember there ever being any other explanation as to
that's
what
true
happened.
because they show the Siberia and the desert one coming back, and then we never see any of those again.
Yeah. So unless they were setting something up for a future episode, which I'm fine with, but it just seemed weird that they would make this big deal about these other parts in other parts of the world and then we never find out what happened to them.
Yeah, that was weird. I agree, and it wasn't really because they kept saying, "Oh, well, we." I mean, I guess if you count it as the body, the way they were explaining it was if it was somebody that they killed, like a king or something, in the battle. They said the body. I guess if this
Hmm.
Dalek was possessing the body, but it didn't look like a body like it was a pretty small package each of them had.
Yeah, that's why I didn't think it was like the tank or anything. So I have no idea what was going on. I don't think it was written well enough to make a whole lot of sense. They wanted it to seem like this mythological story from ancient times, and to me, they didn't explain it well enough that I understood fully what was going on.
Yeah, and then he uses the woman to make the tank,
Hmm.
which was interesting.
And like, I'm also wondering, like, where did he get all the stuff to make the tank? Because they've established in other episodes that the tanks are made of, I think they called it like Dalekanium, which is something from their home planet that's like almost totally impenetrable. So like, this is just basically Earth metal. It's not impenetrable. It's easily defeated. I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
know.
and the Daleks just hate mankind. Do they ever explain why they hate man so much? It's just they're just programmed that way.
They just hate anything different than them. They're basically an analogy for Nazis. They want
Mhm.
everyone to either be a Dalek or to not exist.
Interesting. So, yes, that we've got all of that to deal with. And yeah, and so Ryan and his dad talk about his abandonment and not being him not coming to the funeral for grandma. I mean, the actress did a good job with it, but you're right. It did feel a little wedged in. And they also say that this is a special, extra dangerous Dalek. This isn't your ordinary Dalek, like you said, and I guess that's why they were guarding it so well. I thought it was pretty brutal the way that the Dalek kills that security guard. She that says the planet is now property of the Daleks, and she finds this like energy pole, and that's I guess what she makes the tank out of. So the lady, the archaeologist says, "You are weakening," and then the Dalek says, "No, you are." And she says, "I will fight." So there's sort of back and forth between the two of them, and the
Hmm.
Dalek says, "You fought and you won." And then the doctor says, "Me and the Dalek, it's personal this time." And that's when the Dalek leaves the woman and has this new tank. And she says, "Surviving won't be enough for the Daleks." So they have this back and forth, and the doctor says, "I'm the doctor. Ring any bells?" I don't know. There's all this back and forth. It was interesting to me that the doctor, there were some jokes and some odd moments where the doctor talks about how he just says you can't do it alone, and she says I always have done it alone, which I thought was strange because isn't she always having a companion?
Yeah, I I would have to watch the scene again to fully understand what you mean.
Somebody says, "Well, dads are complicated." The doctor says, "So I'm told." And the idea is that she is parentless, childless, partnerless, but everybody needs her and everyone depends on her. She has to save everybody, but she's very lonely. Did you ever think of the Doctor as being lonely?
Oh, yes. That's why the Doctor always has companions, is because the Doctor is looking for someone to be with.
Uh-huh.
That's like one of the main traits of the Doctor, is loneliness. It's like a running theme through the entire series.
Mm. Okay, yeah. I was surprised you said that because I'm like, wait, isn't she always with people? But I guess that doesn't necessarily mean you aren't lonely.
Well, I think that the Doctor is lonely partly because there are no other Time Lords, at least that we know of. There may be some more out there, but like none of them have been found. And the Doctor doesn't really have any family left. Like the Doctor has had family before. Like the Doctor's very first companion was his granddaughter. So that implies that the Doctor had either been married or had a partner, and they had a child who then had a grandchild for him.
Mm-hmm.
So the Doctor has had family in the past, but they have not had family since their first incarnation because they just, I guess, lost track of them or they've died. It's not really completely clear as to what happened.
Yeah, is the Master the only other member of of the Doctor's species that has regenerated and been part of the show?
There have been other Time Lords in the past, especially in the old series, but then it was hinted at in the first. I know you've missed like the entire middle of the series, so
Yeah,
I guess I'm just
I'll work on it. I'll work on it.
So in the first season, they were talking about there being a time war, and the Doctor and the Daleks apparently were both species were completely eradicated, except for the Doctor, who thought that he won by being the only one surviving. Then, of course,
Uh-huh.
the Daleks are still around, and then there are hints that there are other Time Lords out there. And in the mythology of the show, he's not allowed to like time travel to the past when the Time Lords actually existed, but there have been episodes where he sort of time traveled to the past and sort of found the planet, and but like it doesn't like completely stick. So they're probably out there somewhere. He just doesn't know where.
Interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. That was an interesting dynamic that they went into. You have this on one side, you have this family dynamic between Ryan and his dad. On the other side, you have the loneliness of the Doctor. It was
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And so yeah, I guess the tank was made out of Sheffield steel. This says here in the Entertainment Weekly write up, says not unlike how the Doctor reconstructed her own sonic screwdriver, which is kind of an interesting point, I think, that everybody's making stuff from scratch these days.
I guess so, but
Yeah.
it's still Earth metal. I can't imagine that it has the kind of technology that the Dalek really needs
Yeah.
to to make the tank like as impenetrable as the tanks usually are.
Right. And they did bring an interesting point too that that said the Dalek latches itself to poor Lynn and soon begins controlling her body and mind, adding a nasty body horror twist. It's basically a bleaker Venom minus the scenes of Tom Hardy eating raw lobsters. I think this would have been better if we had gotten a little eating raw lobster scenes.
Yeah, they all they did was make her basically go on a killing spree and build a
Yeah.
tank for the Dalek. It
Yeah.
wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't as exciting as it should have been. I
Yeah.
never really felt like I was fully invested in her story.
No. Yeah, I agree. So anyway, I'm like, yeah, who this is like the year for body possession stories. You got Venom, you got Upgrade, you got this. It's all over the place. But anyway, so I did think it was kind of a nice callback because in the very first episode, she says I'm the Doctor, and you kind of got this callback to that very first episode, and ring any bells was kind of cheeky, and so sort of nice moments. But what did you think about this? The Unified Intelligence Task Force thing, the unit thing that I guess has been shut down now. And there was a whole
Yeah.
thing with Brexit and all of that.
I'm wondering if that's setting up a future plot line because UNIT has been like kind of an integral part in past seasons.
Uh-huh.
Like the Doctor, for some big things, the Doctor either gets their help or helps them with some alien threat that's happening. Because basically, UNIT is supposed to be like, I don't know, not like Men in Black. That seems too silly, but something like that, like a secret government agency that basically saves the world from aliens. And now we don't know what's happened to them. Like, it seems kind of, it better not be just like a throwaway thing, and I hope they're not doing away with UNIT. I'm hoping they're setting up a future plot line where UNIT will either be found or put back together or whatever happened. I guess they didn't want them for this episode and they wrote that in, but I'm hoping that there's more to it than just they wanted the Doctor to do it on her own.
Yeah, I mean, this Entertainment Weekly, they think that that somehow some kind of commentary on Brexit, that we're leaving the, it says here, international funding disputes after Brexit, of course. UNIT's disbanding meant that we didn't get a cameo from the Doctor's old colleague, Kate Stewart. But the good news is that the helpline operator only referred to UNIT as put on hold and suspended pending review, meaning that we may not have seen the last of our UNIT friends. So, who
Yeah, I'm
knows?
hoping they'll be back in the future.
Yeah. There's sort of a weird scene where the Dalek takes down all the Wi-Fi in the UK, and it's New Year's Day, and there's this whole thing, and that was sort of weird.
That
Uh,
family annoyed me.
yeah, it was sort of weird.
It was like, why do we need this
I guess
stereotypical family can't function without internet scene?
yeah, it was
It
weird.
seemed really dumb and cheesy.
Yeah, it was weird. And the Dalek is kind of defeated by a microwave, which was like, is this Gremlins all of a sudden? What's going on here? And yeah, you get to see Ryan's dad get taken over by the Dalek at a certain point, and then they're in the TARDIS, and the Doctor opens up the door to create like this vacuum effect to try to get the Dalek off of Ryan's dad, but it might suck out his dad along with the Dalek. And Ryan says to his dad, because I think he's dying, he says, "I forgive you, I love you." And that they're able to break off the Dalek and send it on its way. I don't know. Was that exciting for you at all?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see where the whole thing was going. Like, it would have surprised me if they'd had the dad get sucked out too and have him die. Maybe I
Yeah.
would have liked it better if that happened. But, like, I could totally predict where that whole scene was going, and it was just, eh.
Yeah, I agree. It was pretty, it wasn't very exciting. And I think it was just because we hadn't really gotten to know. I mean, if that had been like Yaz, that would have been a lot more like tense.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
somebody that, or even if it had been Graham and Ryan
Mhm.
or something like that, that would have been a lot more
Yeah, definitely.
tense. So yeah, so they've all kind of made up, and that's it. That was basically the episode.
Hmm.
And did we leave anything off? Yeah,
We didn't leave anything off, but
they
the
did.
writers left a bunch of threads hanging that I suppose it's fine if they're going to be picked up in later episodes, but if they're not, then this was a shoddily written episode.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you do get the Doctor saying, no matter how many times you try, no matter how long you wait, I will always be in your way, backed up by the best of humanity. So that was a pretty good moment.
Yeah.
But
There were a lot of good little moments and a
yeah,
lot of good character moments, and I liked all the acting, but
uh-huh,
the writing didn't gel or something. I don't know.
uh-huh.
The whole episode was very underwhelming.
Yeah, it really was. I actually got kind of bored. I was
Hmm.
fighting, just, I don't know, getting distracted, getting a little sleepy because it just wasn't very interesting to me. And I think there's been this thing this year that in this season where every monster, every adversary has to have sort of a backstory. It has to kind of not be 100% bad. And they didn't really do that with the Dalek, but I felt like they were almost afraid, aside from having him kill the security guard, they're almost afraid to up the stakes, and make it really scary, if that makes sense.
Well, that's why I thought they were going to be bringing in more than one Dalek. Like if they'd had him like call for backup, or and I actually thought that the thing in the with the two other parts in the other parts of the world, like I thought they were going to be regenerating into two more Daleks and coming as backup for this Dalek, and I thought that was going to be upping the stakes. But then
Right.
it was defeated, and that was the end of the episode. And who knows what happened to the other two things?
Yeah, and if they are going to bring it back, like that's a long time to wait,
Yeah.
if this is supposed to be some kind of cliffhanger, but it didn't feel like it.
No, it didn't feel like a cliffhanger, so I don't know if they were actually planning for the future or if they just left something completely dangling. I don't know. I just wish they'd
Yeah.
made it clearer. Like even just like a teaser at the end of the episode, like showing a Dalek like, I don't know, crawling out of the ground to show you that, hey, this thing is still out there, it's coming.
Yeah.
Like they just never showed you what happened.
Yeah. I agree. And yeah, they didn't really leave any cliffhangers
Mm.
at all, even with the relationships with the different characters. That was all sort of solved. And so I don't know if they just figured, oh, it's too long of a wait. People will be annoyed. But, or maybe that's just the difference in not having Stephen Moffat, because he definitely would have left it on a cliffhanger for sure. Not a doubt in my mind
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
probably true. Yeah. I don't
So,
know. I just feel like everything that happened in this episode was not fleshed out enough. Like they needed more time. Like this could have been a two-parter. Like do half at Christmas, half at New Year's, and give more time with the dad. Let us get to know him.
right.
Build up the Dalek as a credible threat instead of this thing that takes over one girl, kills a couple people, and then gets killed by a microwave. It's just it all happened too quickly, and there wasn't enough time to make me really even care about anybody that was introduced. I mean, they were fine. I felt like I would like the characters if I got to know them more, but I didn't. There
Yeah.
was just not enough time.
I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think that would have been much better if they had done that. And maybe not done the last episode, because that one was very forgettable,
Mm-hmm.
the season finale, and instead have it be related to this story arc. And maybe have a two-part, because there wasn't any two-part story like they sometimes do.
Yeah, they usually have at least one two-parter. There was one season where the entire season was made up of two-parters. I actually liked that because I don't know, it made it feel like it was older Doctor Who because back in the 60s to the 80s, like every episode was a multi-part episode. It was basically a serial. So I liked the season where they did all two-parters, but this season was nothing like that. I mean, I liked what we got in this season. I liked most of the episodes a lot, but there was no serialized storytelling, and I felt like it needed at least a little of that. The
Right.
closest we got was having Tim Shaw come back in the finale, but like that was the dumbest villain. Bring back a better villain.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, very, very, very true. So, all right. Well, that's about all I think we have to say about this episode. So, let us know what you thought. Were you higher on it? Like some of these reviews that I'm reading, they just thought it was the greatest thing. And so, it's kind of interesting. There has been a very big divide on this season between the critics' reviews and the audience reviews, like what I'm seeing on Twitter and some of the other places. I mean, a lot of people hated the season, and a lot of that is different people with different, things. But a lot of people felt like it wasn't very Doctor Whoian, that it didn't feel like the Doctor, that they didn't struggle enough, that it was too easy to defeat everything with the sonic screwdriver. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not skilled enough to be able to say that, but I mean, it was hit and miss for me, but overall I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was kind of disappointing. I was hoping to really love it. Like there were some really great specials, like I loved the Charles Dickens one, the Christmas
Mm-hmm.
Carol one. That one's so good. So fun. So I don't know. It's too bad. But anyway, let us know what you guys thought of this episode, and we're going to be doing one last episode where we're going to rank all 11 episodes of this season. So that should be really fun. I'm not sure on time for that, but we'll figure it out. And so, Jonathan, thanks so much for coming on and talking about this episode. And where can people find you?
You can find me on social media at John J. North, and you can find me on YouTube if you just search for I Heart Animation.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media. And if you can put your ratings and reviews on iTunes of the podcast, it really helps us out, and I'd be very grateful. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and that would be really fun. So thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.
Bye.